How you doing, you guys? I'm going to talk about the Canadian election. Oh no, politics, Sean, you shouldn't talk about it. Well, I'm a political science major, so I'm going to talk about it because there's two things us political science majors do. We talk about politics and we're unemployed. That's basically it. So let me briefly mention what's going on in Canada, and then I will get to what's actually occurring that's so interesting. There are four major parties. There is the Bloc in Canada, which is kind of a nationalist French party. There is the New Democrats, more left than our Democrats in America. If you're in America, I don't know, maybe you're in England, but I'm going to use that as a comparison. Then there are the Liberals, about where our Democrats are roughly. The Conservatives, a little bit more left, but kind of where our Republicans are. So that's kind of where they're at. As far as support, the Conservatives have been stuck in a minority government where they've kind of been the chief minority, if you will. They usually get somewhere around 35 to 38% of the vote. I think right now they're literally at 37 when they came into this election. The Liberals trail substantially. In polling now, they are at 20%. This is why I'm talking about this. This has been a sea drop. They, even during bad times, they would poll around 30. Now they're down to 20. Anyway, this is kind of why I'm talking about it. And the New Democrats, which have traditionally been nowhere politically, have broken through and are now at 30-something%. So this is why I'm talking about this. There has been a sea change. The Liberal Party has crashed and the New Democrats have taken off, and they seem to be switching positions. The Bloc Party is also collapsing. So that's kind of what's going on in Canada. Now, why is this? The Conservative Party has been on these running elections for some time. Basically, well, no, I don't want to start with that. Let's start with Quebec. It's where it really started in this election. About 3 weeks ago, roughly, Quebecian support for the Bloc dropped completely out. It got halved. Now, why is this? Primarily because the Bloc hasn't been doing what the people of Quebec really want. This is fairly obvious if you're looking at it from the outside. There was a lot of indication of this in the internal polling. Also, most people in Quebec don't want to be independent, and one of the crucial tenets of the Bloc is independence. Well, that's a round peg for a square hole or something, so that's not going to work. And that they lost a lot of support over that issue. Basically, they didn't go to the Liberal Party because the Liberals are boring. Their candidate is boring. I'm sorry, it's like John Kerry. I mean, nobody's really voting for the Liberals because of the candidates. They're voting for the Liberals because they are the Liberals. I mean, roughly. I mean, I'm comparing it to John Kerry, if you will. It's kind of like that. Anyway, so they didn't want to go there. They're not conservative, so they didn't want to go for the Conservative Party. Politically, they aren't. If they were, I think they would have made a breakthrough by now. That's my evidence. It's not very substantial, but I'm not Canadian. The New Democrats are basically the only other option, and then that's kind of where they ended up going. Now, when this occurred, it caused a ripple effect that's been felt throughout the rest of Canada, mostly by the Liberals. A lot of Liberal support in BC and in Ontario has waned. Enough so that it looks like the NDP is going to replace them as the primary party against the Conservatives. In Ontario, this process is going on, and there probably will be vote splitting where the Conservatives basically run up the middle while the New Democrats and the Liberals split the vote. Anyway, why did the Liberal Party go through this collapse process? Why did this ripple effect have such a substantial hit? Primarily, as I mentioned earlier, they have nominated bad candidates for Prime Minister. It's not that I think that their candidates are bad people or that they are lacking in political know-how or ability. I just don't think they're exciting. They're like John Kerry. there's nothing I really had against John Kerry, but was I energized by John Kerry? Was I going to campaign for John Kerry? No. The other thing is that their parties moved, or the New Democratic Party basically moved where the Liberals are. So, politically speaking, they've moved a lot more to the center than they were. So they're not this radical leftist party that they used to be made out to be. So the Liberals really don't have that argument to make. So now they're arguing with themselves, if you will. They basically have similar to almost identical policies on issues. So they're kind of stuck that way. The other thing is that the Conservative have tried to portray that, and they have somewhat succeeded. What else is the matter with the Liberal Party? The other part that's the matter with the Liberal Party is that while it has traditionally been the major opposition party to the Conservatives, it really doesn't have a strong base anymore. Except for an area in Ontario and arguably part of the Atlantic Rim, they really don't have a home base. Kind of like Conservatives have the prairies, and the Bloc had Quebec. They might not anymore. Now they really don't have a home base, so they're kind of in a weakened position. And they've lost a lot of support in Ontario, and we'll get into that. So that's kind of been the primary problem with traditional campaigning party, the Liberals, against this issue has basically led to them losing support in, as I noted, Ontario and BC. And now it seems like also Atlantic Canada is going to be a three-way race with the Conservatives, Liberals, and the New Democrats. And so, to put it simplistically, I think the reason why the Liberals have collapsed is also because of the New Democrats having a very energetic candidate. People want to vote for him. You know, he's everybody's second choice candidate. So it means that he's got a lot of energy behind him. You know, that's a good thing to have. And when Quebec went, basically everybody said, well, I've always kind of wanted to vote for him, and I think I will. And that's kind of what's occurred, to put it simplistically. Now, has this affected the Conservatives? The unifying of left, if you want to put it that way, has ramifications post-election, but I don't think it necessarily has huge ones on the Conservatives. I think the Conservatives are going to be about where they are. They might pick up a few more seats, but I don't think they're going to have this giant breakthrough that they kind of were counting on. We'll see. There might be enough vote splitting that they will squeak out a majority, but it's going to be a squeak out. It's not going to be a wave. One last thing I'll mention about the election is that I think that the wave that they're making, this orange crush, which reminds me of what we sprayed in Vietnam, I think is a reference, at least in the REM song, and I won't get into that. But anyway, the orange crush, it's also a soda. Wave, I don't think is as big as people are making out to be. I think it will be surfable, quote unquote, by... boy, that was bad. It's going to be servable, though, by a number of politicians. I don't think it's going to be as crushing. I think that there will be vote splitting in Ontario because I predict that a lot of people are going to vote Liberal that weren't going to vote for Liberal or said they weren't going to, and the same thing happened with Quebec. They're going to vote for the Bloc, even though they said that they were going to vote for the NDP. And, it's going to be a lot more messy. Having said that, I think that it's definitely a major change, though. I think, you'll see the NDP at least be close. They're going to be, I'd subtract 5% of whatever the major polls are projecting because their polling data favors the NDP by about 5%, according to some people I've been reading. Anyway. That's basically it. I hope this wasn't too political. I tried to keep it somewhat neutral. I mean, I'm describing what's going on in the parties. I did not mean to hammer the Liberals so hard, but I'm sorry, from looking at it on the outside, they have a lot of problems. And I think the election will show them, to be frank. I mean, if they win, then I was totally wrong. But no, I don't think I am. That's why I'm thinking that. Anyway, subscribe, comment, rate. If once again, I'm not Canadian, so if you want to hammer me over mispositioning Canadian parties, go ahead. The more criticism I get, I'd like to hear some criticism about this issue. If you have any insight into the politics that are going on in Canada. Once again, the election is May 2nd. I'm going to mention this real quick. If you're Canadian, I'm not going to tell you to vote, but think about it. Who knows? Maybe you really want to vote. Maybe you don't care. And if you don't care, I'm not going to tell you to vote. So anyway, subscribe, comment, rate. Have a great day. Bye.